Hey Fit Fam, Coach Ryan from Team Flex. We're going to be breaking down the Tri-City Figure Pro today. We're looking at figure division. We're going to go over our top 5 placings, why they may have landed the way they did, and what it ultimately means for you criteria-wise, what you need to know 2025 competing in figure at any level. Could be your first show, could be your 30th show, could be you're already a pro, you're trying to get a pro card, whatever it is. I got you covered to teach you the things you need to know about figure division, as well as pretty much every other women's division on this channel. So subscribe, hang out, a lot more coming. Let's get down to it. As I said, Tri-City Figure Pro event. And this is our top 3 competitors here. We have Sophie in the middle. We have Janine over here in second. And then we have Jiyun over here in third. And this is our top 3 in this division pro. So very, if you've been watching all the fit model, the bikini stuff, this looks very muscular. That's because it is, all right? These ladies are developed. They are big, they are muscular, and they are leaner. This, if you're new, you're trying to figure out your footing in the hierarchy of divisions as things go. You know, it goes at this point, fit model, bikini, figure. So, you know, you could put wellness in there too. So fit model, bikini, wellness, figure, as in figure being bigger, being leaner, being overall, all about what you see right here on these top 3, which is the very dramatic V tapered look. So that comes from the shoulders, that comes from the lats, that comes from a very narrow effect at the waist, and then basically lower body wise, you want to be as symmetrical as you can. Now that comes into also showcasing very good conditioning. So leaner groups of athletes where you will see, you know, more splits and separations. However, you don't want to get so lean that you have deep cuts, graininess, striations, things like that. These athletes exemplify very well criteria. Let's take a look at how these placings really rolled out. So Sophie here, she's got very big shoulder development, which is really key for all figure competitors. You're going to see it across the board. If you want to be a figure competitor, you're working on building yourself some cannonball deltoids. If you don't got it, it's going to be an issue, right? Because basically no matter what, that's what we're going to see at this pro event here. She's got very developed shoulders. They showcase that roundness and that fullness well. I think for her, they match best with her lats out of this group, which is a really big thing. Because not only do the shoulders create this kind of width up top, this, you know, upper piece of our V taper look, if you will, the lats really do as well. You want to have a good focus on lats even from the front, right? Because lats, we're going to see a lot when we get to the back, but from the front, they do help really pull the overall look into the waist. So for her, a huge advantage, very narrow waist here, which no matter what, if you got muscle like this up top with the shoulders and the lats and you sweep that in, that is a very clean V taper. And that is going to be, again, just echoed by judges as something they look for. Another note for her is there's no overpowering of her arms. Sometimes with figure athletes, we do see bicep, tricep get a bit too big. It takes away from the delts. Not happening in her case. You know, it's just a very solid V tapered look with a lot of muscle, which is what judges want to see. Lower body wise now, you want to focus on that symmetry and see basically all of that become symmetrical. And we do 100%. You can see with the quad size, it matches with the shoulders, matches with the lats, matches with how this tapered look goes. And it's just overall a very nailed look. Hard to have much feedback from the front on this. She didn't push conditioning too far. It's very on par with this division. It's very on par overall. As we move out, we see Janine here. So Janine in second. For her, she's got a lot of shoulder mass. It does look almost to be a little bit too much though, which does happen to some figure competitors, right? If you add too much shoulder mass, then they kind of poke out. They look, you know, like they are a point of focus versus some of the other areas, right? So you can end up having the shoulders look too much, which is hard to say in figure, right? But it can happen. It can throw the rest of your look off. For her, I wouldn't say she's too much there, but it is just a little bit there. She also doesn't have as big of width into the lats. I am also getting a little bit more bicep, tricep here that can kind of give me, you know, less of an effect into some of the other muscle groups, right? That really you want to let your shoulders and your lats shine in your front pose and figure, and you want to let your lower body really shine too. So, you know, for her, she's got great shoulder development. Everything's there. Her bicep, tricep, maybe do, you know, pull just a little bit from that, and she does not have as wide lats. Great taper into the waist though overall, and really good muscle structure in the lower body that is very symmetrical. So very close placings for her, no doubt here. Taking second at a pro event, nothing to scoff at. Great quality physique overall. You know, very indicative of criteria. Just trying to give you further insight, all of you watching, into how placings really start to shape out. Looking over here at Jiyoon, what we can see for her is, very big shoulders, very good development here. Maybe a tad asymmetry left to right, which we do see sometimes with competitors. I can't say for sure just looking at this, but we do see that. Good narrow waist effect overall. Not as much coming from the lats here. Again, the biggest lats in this group, at least from the front, the width, have really won this class because it creates a much more dramatic V-tapered look. We're not getting as much from her there, but again, very, good muscle structure in the lower body. Maybe just a tad more muscle in the lower body would have been an advantage to her. The two above her do appear to have a little bit more of that lower body muscle. However, all three of these athletes, which is usually what we see at figure level, pretty close in conditioning. Jiyoon may be just a tad leaner, but overall, it's very, very close. Let's look from the back now. Figure in the back. What you want to look at, again, is V-taper, because that's the key to figure. All overall V-taper, and then lower body symmetry to match that V-taper. You're looking at that look, that width from the lats, but also depth. You want to see, a little bit of that 3D effect from all these muscle groups. So, when we get to the back, I say often with many things, with pretty much every division, it's always one from the back, and figure is one from the back. And, when we flip to the back here, I think it's pretty clear again how Sophie just is ahead of the rest in the group. Good shoulder shape overall. We get to see a lot of that fullness from that rear deltoid, an area that you will want to focus on as a figure competitor, because your delts need to look 3D. They need to be fully rounded out, cannonballs, like I said. So that means front delt, lateral delt, rear delt, all of it's got to be included, and it's all got to be there the way it should be. Her lat shape, very wide as we talked about from the front. That's great. And that tapers into a very narrow waist. That's great for her, right? That pulls off your figure look. All you watching, you want to get as big of a lat taper as you can into a very narrow waist structure, and you're going to do better on stage. She also has a lot of good depth into the back. The erectors, the scaps, the traps, all these areas here that are showing through in a lot of good ways. The lat development, the depth. So it's a good indicator. Judges a lot of muscle, what you need in figure, a great tapered look, what you need in figure, and overall, like I said before, bicep and tricep are not taking away from this. They are letting it showcase and letting it showcase well. Lower body-wise now, the glute structure, overall upper glute, overall glute into, hamstring tie-in, hamstring development, quad development. It's all super symmetrical and very, very on par with condition. Not too lean, not holding a lot of extra body fat, just pinpoints it, hits it. That's the marker. That's a slam dunk look for her. By the way, if you want to be a figure competitor, you're having a hard time figuring this out, do the 7-day free trial, okay? I can give you feedback direct on your physique. You're like, I don't understand where I need to work. I don't know how to get my glutes here. I don't know how to get my lats here. I don't know how to do that. Do the 7-day free trial, pull it up, grab your phone, pull it up, type it in. I'll see you on the other side of the app, and I'll chat with you about anything. I'll answer all your questions as if I'm coaching you free for 7 days. Do not miss that chance, okay? Because it can make a game changer for your season. Looking over here now, Janine, she overall has a good figure shape structure. The thing that stands out to most to me is the lower body is not really at the same level as far as density development goes as Sophie's is here in this lineup. So I think that's a big factor. Maybe a little bit more 3D from the glutes and the hamstrings and the quads, which means more development. Upper body wise, good overall shoulder shape, tapers in. A little bit of not much of a dramatic lat spread, right? And that's a big factor. Figure athletes, you want to work those lats. You want to bring that through all you watch. No matter your level, focus on that and you'll do better and better on figure stages. Looking over here at Jiyoon, good shoulder shape, everything's there. Lats is in a good spot, tapers in well, a good depth to the back here. A little bit softer, she looked a little bit leaner from the front, a little bit softer from the back maybe, and that's something we kind of do see sometimes with figure athletes because they have to, have such an even conditioned look. It's hard to pull that off. But lower body wise, there's not as much muscle going on here in the glutes, and quads and hamstrings overall. So I would say that's probably the main difference here between that. Let's go now to our fourth and our fifth, pull them into the lineup and talk a little bit more. Helen here in fourth, and fifth over here, Danielle. So great overall figure looks, but some clear differences I think we can see. So as we move out into these fourth and the fifth, Helen, a bit, thicker in the waist, and same over here for Danielle. A little bit thicker in the waist compared to our first place. Not as dramatic of a V-tapered look. This is where I'm saying the more dramatic of a V-tapered look you can get, the better it is for you on figure. It is better and better every time for figure. If you can get a very narrow waist, good development in the shoulders, a sweep from the lats, and you can pull that off, that's going to be an advantage for you every single time, no matter your level. These athletes overall, Helen's got good shoulder shape, not as much from her lats though. Her arms do appear a bit, more dominant than some of the others in the group. Great lower body development overall, and, conditioning is really nailed, but not as dramatic of a taper in the waist, not as much lat width going on, and maybe, a little too much coming from the arms. So that's her taking fourth here, nothing to scoff at, but again, just trying to give you all further insight into how placings may land. Over here, Danielle, good overall shoulder shape. Everything is there. Arms in good symmetry with that. Not as much from the lats. A little bit thicker in the waist, but not too bad. That's still a good tapered look. Very good V tapered look overall. Muscle structure in the lower body seems pretty on par. Let's go to the back and see what the full story is for both of our fourth and our fifth in this lineup. Okay, so when we go now here, it's interesting how dramatic things can change when you go to the back pose, right? Because Helen actually, she's got a very, very lean look. It didn't appear as much from the front. I mean, you could say it's lean, but when we get back here, it's very, very lean. So good overall shape. Everything is here, good lats overall, tapers in, boom, depth to the back. Everything is there. Very, very lean though. This is a super lean look. We start to see almost glutes starting to separate out, feather a bit here. That's too lean for figure. That's not going to be, placing at the top in figure division. You'll see that clearly Sophie in first, she's got a much softer lower body, but she's winning the class. This is a much leaner look, and she's taking fourth. So again, ways you could go about that to say, different things, but bigger and leaner in figure is not always the answer, because it starts to make you look like, you need to go into women's physique or something of that nature. Over here for Danielle, probably, again, she may be actually the leanest in the group from the back that we have seen. So very lean, not as much depth from the lats here. Good width overall, but it's all tying in. Lower body wise is a super lean look though. The glutes look to be a little bit, they could be fuller, and lower body wise, hamstring, everything here, very lean look. So bigger athletes, leaner athletes in figure, at least at this event. And generally what I see, it's about nailing that shape, nailing that criteria, bringing that through. But bigger and leaner, you might be putting yourself down in call outs, and that'll happen, definitely at amateur levels. Pros are very close. They're all very much within criteria. But if you come to a figure show too big, too lean, it's going to be a problem for you. You really want to nail your best shape and bring in the right conditioning with that, and that's going to help you on every stage that you compete at. Let me know what you think. Do you like these placings, the way they landed, the way they did? Do you think somebody else should have placed higher or won, or what do you think? Comment it down below, and thank you for watching. Coach Ryan is out.